Hello, and welcome to the Practical World podcast. This is your guide to actionable insights and strategies for employees and salarymen. In each episode, we cover a variety of topics, from productivity hacks and financial tips to work-life balance and personal growth. Our mission is to equip you with practical tools to enhance your professional journey. Let's dive in and discover the benefits waiting for you in the practical world. This is the real world. This is the Practical World podcast.
Welcome back, everybody, to another deep dive. I am so excited about today's topic.
Yeah.
It's outward mindset.
Yeah.
And you sent me some super thought-provoking excerpts.
Right.
And honestly, I'm both kind of skeptical and intrigued.
Yeah.
Skeptical because is this really something that we can apply to like the real world?
Absolutely.
But intrigued also because, gosh, less workplace drama, better teamwork. Who wouldn't want that?
Exactly.
So what is this whole outward mindset thing all about?
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head when you talked about less workplace drama, more teamwork.
Right.
I think the core idea is really just about that shift from me to we.
Okay.
And I think, we've all had that experience of working in a place where everyone's kind of looking out for themselves.
Yeah.
And you see colleagues as obstacles instead of partners.
Like, how can I get ahead of them?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Versus how can we work together
Yeah.
to achieve something even bigger than either one of us could do on our own.
And I like how you said, it's not about being a pushover or just like neglecting your own needs.
Right.
You said boundaries are still important.
Absolutely.
But it's this idea of we're all in this together.
Yeah.
We're all trying to achieve something.
I think that's one of the biggest misconceptions is that this means like letting go of your own ambitions.
Oh, interesting.
It's actually quite the opposite.
Well, sure.
What the research shows and what this source really emphasizes is that by prioritizing other people's needs and goals alongside your own, you can actually unlock incredible benefits, not just for the team as a whole, but for yourself as well.
Okay, so they said improved relationships, higher job satisfaction, and enhanced team performance.
Yeah.
Those are all things I want.
Absolutely.
But how do we actually get there? Can you give me a concrete example of how this plays out?
Yeah, I think a really classic scenario is two colleagues who are both vying for a promotion.
Okay, so they're competing.
Exactly.
Okay.
And with an inward mindset, it becomes all about winning.
Right, yeah.
Regardless of the cost.
Yeah.
So you might withhold information, undermine your colleague, maybe even, sabotage their efforts.
Yeah.
And it creates this zero-sum game where only one person can come out on top.
Right.
Now, an outward mindset doesn't necessarily mean that you don't care about the promotion.
Okay.
But it means that the promotion itself is less important than the overall success of the team.
Oh, interesting.
So you might actually find yourself helping your colleague prepare for the interview, sharing insights, maybe offering feedback on their presentation.
So you're helping the person who you're competing with
Exactly.
to get the same job you want.
And genuinely celebrating their success if they get it.
And the source is saying that leads to better outcomes for both people.
That's what's so fascinating.
Wow.
Is that when you shift the perspective away from just your own individual gain, you create this environment where both people can actually perform better.
So it's not about taking yourself out of the running.
Right.
It's about changing the way you view that competition.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And there's actually a lot of research in positive psychology that shows that helping other people can actually increase our own well-being, give us a greater sense of purpose.
Interesting.
Which can then, lead to better performance and ironically even potentially.
You might get the job.
Exactly.
Okay.
Because you're coming from a more, you're more relaxed, you're more open.
It makes me think about if you're playing a sport.
Yes.
And you're so focused on the other team, you're not playing your best.
Exactly. You're not in the flow.
But if you just trust, okay, we're all doing our best.
Yeah. Focus on what you can control.
Yeah.
And support your teammates.
It's interesting. So the source also mentions, this idea of job satisfaction being improved by this outward mindset.
Absolutely.
What is that about?
Well, they give a really interesting example of a customer service agent
who
was feeling really stuck in a rut.
Oh, yeah.
Just going through the motions.
I can relate to that.
Yeah, just following the script, hitting the metrics.
Right.
Not feeling particularly fulfilled.
Soul crushing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so this agent made a conscious effort to shift to an outward mindset.
Okay.
And what that looked like for them was really focusing on understanding the customer's problems.
Okay, so less focus on the script.
Yeah, less on the metrics, more on actually connecting with the human being on the other end of the line.
And how did that work out?
Their customer satisfaction ratings went through the roof.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Because people could sense that authenticity.
So the customers were happier.
Much happier.
And the agent was happier.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they reported a much greater sense of purpose in their work.
So it's like that rising tide lifts all boats idea.
Absolutely.
And I think the source also talked about this whole team performance thing.
Right.
How does an outward mindset actually make a team function better?
They gave a really compelling case study of a marketing team.
Okay.
Who was struggling to launch a new campaign.
They were struggling even though they had a bunch of smart people on the team.
Yeah, because what was happening was they were so focused on their own individual contributions.
Okay.
And getting credit for their ideas that the campaign itself lacked cohesion.
Oh, so they were almost like working against each other.
Exactly. They were stepping on each other's toes.
Yeah.
And as a result, the campaign just wasn't resonating.
And they were trying to launch a new product or service.
Yeah, and it wasn't working.
So what happened? What did they do?
Well, they went through an outward mindset training program.
Oh, wow.
And this wasn't just like a fun team building thing.
Okay.
This was like they really dove deep.
Interesting.
And they learned to see the campaign as a collective effort.
So it wasn't my idea versus your idea.
Exactly.
It was our idea.
It was our campaign, our shared goal.
Oh.
And this led to more open communication, a willingness to give and receive feedback.
Okay.
And ultimately, a much more successful campaign.
Wow. So just by making that one shift,
Yeah.
it sounds like it had this ripple effect.
Absolutely.
Okay, well, I'm starting to get how this outward mindset thing could work.
Mm-hmm.
But how do we actually, like, flip the switch in our brains?
Right.
You know, do we just wake up one morning and suddenly we're thinking about everybody else?
I wish it were that easy.
Right.
But the source actually outlined 5 actionable steps
Okay.
that we can take to cultivate this outward mindset.
So they're saying anyone can do this.
Anyone can do this.
Okay.
And it starts with something very simple and accessible, which is self-reflection.
Okay, so like looking in the mirror.
Exactly.
And thinking about how we're approaching our work and our relationships.
Yeah, asking yourself, am I approaching these situations with an inward mindset or an outward mindset?
And I imagine that's hard to be honest with yourself.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of self-awareness and a willingness to kind of confront those parts of ourselves that maybe aren't so flattering.
And that's just step 1.
That's just step 1.
Okay, I'm ready for step 2.
All right, so step 2 builds on that self-awareness.
Okay.
And it encourages us to see our colleagues as, well, people.
Okay, not just coworkers.
Not just cogs in the machine.
Not just obstacles.
Exactly. Remembering that they have their own goals, challenges, you know, fears, dreams, just like us.
Like whole human beings.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that simple act of recognition of seeing their humanity
Okay.
can really change how we interact with them.
So for example, like instead of getting annoyed at the coworker who's always asking for help,
Right.
you could see them as someone who maybe just needs a little extra guidance.
Exactly. And who might actually teach you something in the process.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, what's step 3?
Step 3 is all about asking meaningful questions.
Okay.
So instead of assuming that we know what someone else is thinking or feeling, get curious. Ask questions like, what are your goals for this project? Or how can I best support you?
It sounds so simple.
It is simple, but it's powerful.
Yeah.
Because it shows that you genuinely care about their perspective.
Okay.
And that you're willing to collaborate to achieve shared success.
I like it.
Yeah.
So we've reflected. We've humanized our colleagues.
Wow.
We've asked good questions.
Right.
What's next?
Step 4 is where the rubber meets the road, right?
Okay.
It's about adjusting our actions to reflect this newfound outward mindset.
So actually changing our behavior.
Exactly.
Wow.
And it doesn't have to be grand gestures.
Okay.
Little things like offering to help a colleague who's overwhelmed,
Right.
sharing credit for successes, celebrating each other's wins.
So it's creating that culture where actions speak louder than words.
Absolutely.
Okay, I like it.
Yeah.
What about step 5?
Step 5 is often overlooked, but it's crucial.
Okay.
It's about measuring the impact.
Okay.
So ask yourself, are these efforts actually making a difference? Are team dynamics improving?
Okay.
Are we achieving our goals more effectively?
So check in and see if it's working.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Seek feedback, look at the data.
And I imagine that's a constant process.
It is.
Yeah.
It's not like you just do it once and you're done.
Right.
It's an ongoing journey.
Okay, well, so far so good.
Yeah.
I'm starting to really see the potential of this outward mindset.
Me too.
But the source also mentioned a case study about a sales team that completely transformed their culture
Yes.
and their performance by embracing this outward mindset.
I'm dying to hear this.
Yeah, that sounds like a story for next time.
Let's do it.
All right, everybody, join us again next time when we dive even deeper into the outward mindset.
Looking forward to it.
All right, so we're back and ready to hear about that sales team that turned things around with an outward mindset.
Yeah, this case study is a really good example of how an outward mindset shift can actually improve tangible business outcomes.
Okay, so it's not just like, people feeling better. It's actually like improving the bottom line.
Exactly.
Okay.
This sales team was struggling, and not just with their sales numbers. The whole internal dynamic was just toxic.
Really?
Yeah, they were so focused on individual performance, hitting your quotas. They had become like a team of lone wolves.
Oh.
Operating under the same company banner, but not really functioning as a team.
So classic every person for themselves scenario?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you can imagine what that did to their results.
Yeah. Sales tanked, I'm guessing?
Sales were down, morale was plummeting.
Right.
High turnover rate, just not a good situation.
So how did they turn things around? What was the magic bullet?
Well, they brought in a consultant who specialized in outward mindset training.
Right.
And this wasn't just some kumbaya team-building retreat.
Right.
They actually implemented a pretty radical change to their KPIs.
Their KPIs, so the key performance indicators,
Yeah.
how they're measuring success.
Exactly. And traditionally, sales teams are really incentivized by those individual sales numbers, right?
The more you sell, the bigger your bonus, yeah?
Exactly.
So what did they change it to?
They shifted the focus from individual sales to team performance.
Wow.
And customer satisfaction.
Really?
So they started tracking things like the number of referrals generated from existing clients.
Yeah.
The percentage of deals closed collaboratively.
Interesting.
And of course, those all-important customer satisfaction scores.
So they were really saying, we succeed together or we fail together.
Precisely.
Interesting.
Taking the me versus you out of the equation.
Right.
And replacing it with us versus the problem.
I like that.
Yeah.
So did it work? What happened?
The results were pretty remarkable.
Right.
Not only did their overall sales numbers increase significantly,
Wow.
but individual performance also improved across the board.
So even though they weren't focusing on the individual numbers.
Yeah, it's counterintuitive, right? But by aligning individual goals with team success,
Right.
they created this positive feedback loop where everyone benefited.
And did this impact how they interacted with each other?
Absolutely. The environment became more supportive.
Okay.
People were sharing leads, helping each other close deals, celebrating each other's successes.
Wait, so they were happy for each other when someone else made a sale?
Yeah, they were genuinely invested in each other's success.
That's pretty rare in a sales environment.
Yeah, but that's the power of an outward mindset.
I'm starting to get it.
Yeah.
And the source also mentioned that this had a ripple effect on their clients too, right?
Absolutely.
So the clients were happier.
The clients were sensing that collaborative spirit, that genuine desire to help them succeed.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense.
And they responded positively.
Because who wouldn't want to work with a team that's, got your back?
Exactly. Exactly.
Okay, so this is all great, but I'm sure some listeners are thinking, sure, this sounds good for a sales team, but what about me? I'm a teacher, I'm a nurse, how does this apply to my job?
That's a really great question. And the beauty of the outward mindset is that it is adaptable to any workplace.
Okay.
Whether you're a teacher, a nurse, a software developer, an entrepreneur.
So it's not the specific job you have, it's just how you approach your work.
It's the mindset, it's how you view the people around you.
So it's about seeing your colleagues as partners instead of competitors.
Exactly.
Asking how can we achieve this together instead of how can I get ahead?
Yeah, shifting the focus from me to we.
Okay, so we've got the mindset shift, but what about the actual steps to get there?
Right.
We talked about those 5 steps earlier. Do you think they would apply to all these different industries and jobs?
Absolutely. They're universal principles.
Okay, so remind me what they were again.
The first one was self-reflection.
Okay, being honest with ourselves.
Exactly. Taking a good, hard look in the mirror.
And that's an ongoing process.
It is. It's not a one-time thing.
Okay, what's the second step?
The second step is seeing others as people.
Okay, humanizing them.
Exactly. Remembering that they have their own stories, their own challenges.
Okay, makes sense.
And once we do that, we naturally start asking those meaningful questions.
Which was step 3.
That's right. What are your goals? Or how can I support you?
Okay, simple but powerful.
Exactly.
And then we have to actually change our actions.
That's step 4, adjusting our behavior.
So what would that look like in, different work settings?
It could be offering to help a colleague who's overwhelmed, even if it's not your job.
Okay.
It could be sharing credit for success, celebrating each other's wins.
Creating that supportive culture.
Exactly.
Okay, and then the last step,
Measuring the impact.
making sure it's actually working.
Exactly.
So checking in, getting feedback.
Yeah, it's a constant process of learning and adjusting.
Okay, so it all sounds great in theory,
Right.
but I know what some of our listeners might be thinking. Like, what about the real world challenges?
Yeah, those are the tough ones.
Like, what if my boss is a micromanager? What if my colleagues are like hyper competitive?
Right. How do you stay outward when everyone else is being so inward?
And what if I'm already like drowning in work and I don't have time to help anybody else?
Those are all very valid concerns.
And I'm guessing the source addressed some of those.
They did. They actually had a whole section on common challenges.
Well, I'm all ears. Let's dive into those and figure out how to deal with them.
Let's do it.
All right, so let's be real for a second.
Yeah.
Not every workplace is this like, utopia of collaboration and support and all that.
Right.
We've all had that boss, the micromanager.
Oh, yeah.
Those colleagues who like thrive on competition.
Mm-hmm.
And on top of it all,
Yeah.
we're all drowning in deadlines.
Of course.
So how are we supposed to stay outward
Right.
when it feels like, the world is pushing us to be inward?
That's a great question, and it's where it gets really real.
Okay.
Because the source acknowledges this, right? Like, shifting to an outward mindset isn't always sunshine and rainbows.
Right.
It takes effort, especially when you're dealing with some of these less than ideal situations.
Okay, so let's unpack those challenges you mentioned.
Let's do it.
First up, the micromanager.
The classic.
The boss who's always hovering, scrutinizing every little detail.
Yeah.
You can't breathe without him, looking over your shoulder.
Makes you feel like you're back in high school.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right.
So how do you even start to be outward
Yeah.
when you've got that going on?
It's tricky.
Yeah.
But remember, outward mindset is about understanding the needs and goals of others.
Right.
And that includes your manager.
Okay.
So instead of just seeing them as like the enemy, the obstacle,
Yeah.
try to understand where they're coming from.
So have some empathy for the micromanager,
Exactly.
even though they're driving you crazy.
Because there's usually a reason, right?
Okay, yeah.
Like, is it because they don't trust you? Is it because they're afraid of something going wrong?
Right.
Or maybe they just have a completely different management style.
So figure out why they're doing it.
Yeah, get curious about their motivation.
Okay.
And once you understand that, you can approach the situation a little more strategically.
Okay.
Like maybe they're micromanaging because they haven't been kept in the loop.
Right.
So maybe you can preempt that by giving them regular updates.
Okay, some more communication?
Exactly.
Well-
Show them that you're on top of things.
Right.
And that might help them loosen their grip a little bit.
So again, it's kind of turning this adversarial relationship
Right.
into something that's more collaborative.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And sometimes it might even require having a conversation
Oh, yeah, with the micromanager,
with a micromanager.
which I imagine can be scary.
Can be a little daunting.
Yeah.
But, an open, honest conversation about how their management style is affecting you
Right.
could actually lead to a better working relationship.
Okay, so communication is key.
Communication is always key.
All right, so what about those hyper-competitive colleagues?
Yeah, the ones who are always trying to one-up you.
Yeah, they hoard information. They take credit for your ideas.
It's all about them.
Yeah, how do you stay outward in that situation?
Well, it's important to remember
Okay,
you can't control other people.
right, yeah.
You can only control your reaction to them.
Okay,
So instead of getting sucked into their game,
yeah.
focus on building genuine connections
Well
with
played.
the people who are open to collaboration.
So find your tribe.
Find your tribe.
Yeah.
Lead by example. Show them the benefits of teamwork.
Right, be the change.
Exactly.
And maybe that'll rub off on those other colleagues.
Maybe. You never know.
Okay, and sometimes it's about setting boundaries.
Right.
Like if
Yeah.
someone is constantly taking advantage of your good nature,
Mhm.
you have to protect yourself.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Because outward mindset isn't about being a doormat. It's about finding that healthy balance
Okay.
between supporting others and respecting yourself.
All right, so we've covered the micromanagers, the competitive colleagues.
Yeah.
What about when we're just like overwhelmed?
Right.
I've got a million deadlines.
Always.
I can barely keep up with my own work.
Mm-hmm.
How am I supposed to find the time and energy to help other people?
That's a real struggle.
Yeah.
And I think in those situations, it's about being really strategic
Okay.
and focusing on small but impactful actions.
So you don't have to, like, save the world.
No, you don't have to be a superhero.
Just little things.
Yeah, because sometimes just a small gesture can make a huge difference.
Like what? Give me an example.
Offering a word of encouragement to a colleague who's stressed,
Right.
taking 5 minutes to help someone troubleshoot a tech issue,
Right.
just being present, listening.
So being mindful of the people around you.
Exactly.
Even when you're crazy busy.
And I guess those small things, they can add up over time. They absolutely do. It's like making deposits in that emotional bank account.
I like that.
Right. And it creates that culture of trust and support.
Okay, so it sounds like even when we're facing those real-world challenges,
Yeah.
there are ways to make this outward mindset thing work.
Absolutely.
It's about shifting our perspective,
Mm-hmm.
focusing on those small actions,
Yeah.
and remembering that helping others actually helps everyone,
It really does.
including ourselves.
And the source had a great quote about this.
Okay, what is it?
They said, "Want to thrive at work? Start by seeing your coworkers as people, not obstacles."
I love that. That really sums it all up.
Right.
Yeah.
And they also offer these 3 reflective questions
Okay.
to help us put all of this into practice.
Okay, hit me with those questions.
Right. The first one is, what is one workplace relationship where an inward mindset might be holding you back?
So think about those relationships that could benefit from a little more,
Yeah.
outwardness.
Exactly. The second question is, how can you better understand your colleagues' goals and challenges?
So again, asking those meaningful questions.
Exactly. Get curious.
Okay, and the last question.
This one's my favorite. It's, what small action could you take today to support someone else's success?
So something easy, something doable.
Right. It doesn't have to be this big, grand gesture.
Yeah, just a little something.
Exactly.
Well, this has been a fascinating deep dive.
I agree.
And I have to say, I'm feeling a lot less skeptical than I was at the beginning.
Me too. Me too.
So as we wrap things up, what's your biggest takeaway?
For me, it's that this outward mindset stuff isn't just some fluffy ideal.
Right.
It's a real tool that we can use to make our work lives better.
Yeah, it's about making that shift from me to we,
Exactly.
seeing our colleagues as people, not just coworkers.
Right, and finding those little ways to help each other succeed.
And when we do that, we create this ripple effect of positivity
Absolutely.
that makes work more enjoyable for everyone.
And who doesn't want that?
That's exactly. All right, everyone. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Thanks for having me.
And until next time, keep those mindsets outward.
Outward mindset.
Thank you for joining. This is the Practical World Podcast.